Browns lose their fourth game in a row here in Philadelphia, 20-16 to the Eagles. And let's just start here. Of course, the question on everyone's mind, it's going to be a question until there's either a change or he starts playing well. Mary Kay, Kevin Stefanski sticking with Deshaun Watson at quarterback.
Yes, unequivocally. He stated that after the game again. He didn't even hesitate. So they're sticking with their QB1 for now. And they still hope to get this thing turned around. I think that Kevin Stefanski still looks at this as a systemic problem. They had a lot of problems on the offensive line today. But who knows? Would those things change if they had a different quarterback? It's really hard to tell. This offense is an absolute mess.
Yeah, Ashley, and look, there were some signs of life from Deshaun in the second half of this football game as the Browns tried to rally, but it was still just a really difficult day offensively all around.
It was. I mean, they didn't get in the red zone into a goal line situation until the very last drive of the game. It's hard to win a football game when that's the case. Again, they were terrible on third down, but they converted 3, I think, all in the fourth quarter, all in the second half. And that, I think, is just really hard. It shows you that they are just not putting themselves in good position off of first and second down. And when you're not doing that, the drive's essentially over right as it starts.
Now, one of the worst moments was when they got down to the goal line with a chance to get back into the football game, and they were unable to do it. False starts, penalties, just what we've seen kind of all year long. And Mary Kay, that might have something to do with an offensive line that got shaken up early. Nick Harris went out with an ankle injury. He's having surgery. Michael Dunn had to move from right guard to center. That brought Zach Zinter back in at right guard. So the offensive line, kind of a mess, and it showed in that moment.
Yes, it was a mess. In fact, Michael Dunn and Deshaun Watson have never worked together in terms of the center quarterback snap exchange. So that was challenging. And then, as you mentioned, Zach Zinter gets thrown back in at right guard. He was out of there with Michael Dunn replacing him because he was struggling. And he false started down there on the goal line. Jed Wills false started on the goal line. So there were a lot of mistakes down there. And they have to get these things corrected, but it was really a rough afternoon for the line.
Yeah, Ashley, this feels like really the 6th game in a row where we've sat here and we've been talking about these same problems that this team has had.
Yeah, I mean, I even asked Jack Conklin after the game, does it feel like you guys are at a point where you just can't catch a break with the O-line and injuries? And obviously they had a lot of injuries last year, but this just feels so different with all of the shuffling they're having to do without Bill Callahan here, where last year those injuries, they were essentially plugging and playing tackles, right? This year, you're seeing more of those shifts happen, weird shifts happen in game. Obviously, the Michael Dunn shift today. Obviously, we saw Joel Bitonio playing left tackle earlier this season. So it's just, I think, not great. I do think it is all systemic right now. I think just about everything has to be on the table because the reality is at 1-5, your season is, for all intents and purposes, essentially over in terms of playoff hopes given history in the league.
Now, there was one good thing. We're going to talk about it. Myles Garrett, again, leaped over another human being and blocked a field goal today. It led to a Rodney McLeod touchdown. He said, now, McLeod played for the Eagles for a long time. He said that's the first time he scored a touchdown in this stadium. So certainly a cool moment for him. But Mary Kay, you certainly can't look at Myles Garrett in this football game and say that this loss was on him.
No. He brought that spark that Kevin Stefanski was looking for. He asked the big name players to step up. He actually asked everybody to step up and provide a spark. Myles absolutely did that. I thought JOK did that with a sack right before that. And it just wasn't enough. And that's really unfortunate. But they weren't without their issues on defense as well. They gave up some big plays, but certainly Myles Garrett did his part.
Yeah, 2 big plays in particular in the second half, a long touchdown to Devontae Smith and then a clinching catch by A.J. Brown over Greg Newsome that essentially let the Eagles, not essentially, it did let the Eagles run out the clock. But Ashley, Myles, they needed that play. That's the reason they were even in this football game. Myles Garrett, for the second time, leaping over the long snapper and blocking a kick.
Yeah, I am planning to write about that because for me, that's the spark that wasn't. I think when that happened, we all assumed, the Browns could very well win this game at that point because it became a 10-10 tie. Before that, it was looking like the Eagles were going to go up 13-3 right before halftime. And knowing how this offense has struggled, climbing out of a double-digit hole in 2 quarters is kind of a big ask right now. So I do think it's unfortunate. And also because I remember them talking about this last year when this play worked in Indianapolis. The problem with running something like this is you basically get one shot at it. And it worked, but you didn't win the game. So teams are definitely going to be on high alert again when they see Myles Garrett out there ready to leap over the line on a field goal.
Okay, as you'd expect, everybody said all the right things after the game about still being close, still having an opportunity, even at 1-5. They are going home. They get 3 straight home games here, including their first 2 division games, beginning with Cincinnati next week and Baltimore next week. Mary Kay, is there still hope for this football team?
You know, they really are talking a good ball game about there being hope. Even Amari was talking about how the Cowboys started 1-5 in 2018. I have to look it all up, but apparently they rebounded really well from that. And these guys do feel like they've still got all of their conference games ahead of them, all of their division games ahead of them, a lot of home games coming up, as you mentioned. And Nick Chubb is coming back on Sunday at Cleveland Brown Stadium. So there is a little bit of hope.
Yeah, at least Browns fans will get that to cheer about. We'll see if they get to cheer about anything else against the Bengals. But Ashley, I think one of the things that it's been systemic issues, right? So when you think about what this team has to do to get better, they've got to fix a lot of things, from the quarterback to the play calling to the protection, just everything. There's so many things that need fixed, but Maybe,
but I mean, during the season, I don't know how much of all of those things you're going to be able to fix. I think you can make headway, and I do think Nick Chubb's return is going to provide a spark. Plus, we do know in recent years it's not time to pick the game against the Cincinnati Bengals, but for whatever reason, the Browns have kind of had Joe Burrow's number in recent years, so there's a chance, there's a possibility that some wins may be on the horizon. But I think big picture, I don't want to paint it too positively right now in terms of playoff chances or anything like that, because it would take a lot more going right, I think.
Okay, we will cover everything that happened here today at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia at cleveland.com/Browns.